Working in the field of public health for more than 45 years, I believe, and as its founding dean, the school has gone on to do really great many things. So as a family, we cannot think of a better outlet, a better recipient of this money, so that we replenishing the funds. The rest of it can fund motivated, driven women from underprivileged families to do a master's in public health. And I hope that the name of my grandparents and my parents will continue to live on through their great achievements through the school. So thank you again for being here, and a big thank you to JPG for hosting this, not only this event, but the scholarship on our behalf. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. এবার আমাদের পরিবারের পক্ষ থেকে সংক্ষিপ্ত বক্তব্য রাখবেন আমার খালা মুর্শিদ জাহান চৌধুরী ও আমার চাচা আহমেদ মাহমুদুর রাজা চৌধুরী। প্রথমেই মুর্শিদ জাহান চৌধুরী।
কিছু কিছু কর্তব্য, কিছু দায়িত্ব থাকে যা পালন করা অত্যন্ত জরুরি, কিন্তু সব সময় সবার পক্ষে সেটা পালন করা সম্ভব হয় না। কারো সামর্থ্য থাকে না, কারো সামর্থ্য থাকা সত্ত্বেও মন মানসিকতা থাকে না, উদ্যম থাকে না।
পরিবারের বর্তমান প্রজন্মের অনেকেই বিভিন্ন মানবহিতৈষী কর্মকাণ্ডে নিয়োজিত রয়েছেন। তারা সিলেটে হযরত শাহজালাল বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে বৃত্তির প্রকল্প এবং সহ বিভিন্ন ধরনের জনহিতৈষী কাজে নিয়োজিত রয়েছেন। তাদের গৃহীত আরও কিছু বড়সড় ফিলান্থ্রপিক উদ্যোগ, যা এর আগেও অনেক বলে গেছে, আমাদের পরিবারের আরো কিছু গৃহীত বড়সড় ফিলান্থ্রপিক উদ্যোগ শীঘ্রই শুরু হবার পথে রয়েছে।
University students represented by Asia are the 3 of our MPH students and 1 from our biotechnology department, and actually they became the second. So this is an example of the quality of the education and also the leadership that the BRAC University offers. But that's one example, but here comes all this name to my mind, that Nyata from Liberia, who actually gave a speech in the Security Council because of the Ebola epidemic. And based on that, the school, the foundation pillar of the school is actually four: the education, training, research, and advocacy. So education, I just gave the example of the education of our master student or the graduates, but also training. We trained more than 5,000 the professionals from the institution.
প্রথম রবীন্দ্রনাথের একটি কবিতা শুনে কোথায় যেন হারিয়ে গেলাম। রবি ঠাকুর নিজে বলছেন হারিয়ে যাব নাই মানা। আজি এ প্রভাতী রবির কর কেমনে পশিল প্রহার্প, কেমনে পশিল গুহার আধারে প্রভাত পাখির গান। ঠিকই কবি তার কল্পনায় শত বছর পূর্বে যে কল্পনার যে স্বপ্ন দেখেছিলেন, আজ কিন্তু আমরা সেই কল্পনার স্বপ্ন বাস্তবে আমরা স্বপ্ন দেখছি যে এই দেশ আমরা গুহার আধার থেকে বেরিয়ে এসে প্রভাত পাখির গানে সমস্ত পৃথিবীকে মুখরিত করেছে। আজকে আমরা সেই দেশ নয়, রবীন্দ্রনাথের কল্পনার সেই গুহার অন্ধকারে নয়।
They're happy, they were cared for. So obviously there have been improvements, and very much, schools like this school, institutions like ICDRB have played a phenomenal role in this development in Bangladesh. One of the reasons I mentioned that I represent the private sector here, we see a lot of funds from the private sector being given for charitable purposes. But where are they being given? They're being given mostly to apparently religious charities. There seems to be some conception in the minds of people that if we build mosques, we will go to heaven faster. I'll give you a story. I was in Istanbul airport with a major shareholder and director of a bank who very proudly told me, আমি তো 50টার বেশি মসজিদ আর মাদ্রাসা করেছি। আমি খুব ভালো কাজ করেছেন মাশাআল্লাহ, আলহামদুলিল্লাহ। আপনি একটা স্কুল আর একটা হাসপাতাল করলে পারেন। You know, he really got annoyed with me. আমার উপরে অনেক চটেই গেলেন ওইখানে। চটে আমাকে একদম ধমকে বলে উঠলেন, মানুষের স্পিরিচুয়াল হেলথ অনেক বেশি ইম্পর্টেন্ট। আমি আর কথা না বাড়িয়ে চেকিং টেকিং করে আমি আমার মতো চলে গেলাম। But there are a lot of funds available there, and somehow I think we need to work to get this idea into prominence and into currency, that education for our children, we all know the figure, 60% of our population is below the age of 25, 50% of the population is below this, that, and the other. We know all the figures, but one of the things from the private sector we do see is that education, and the quality of education, not just the quantity, is really, really important for their future, and we're still falling very short of that.
In my current position today, to announce the scholarships from basically my first boss. I joined BRAC in 1993. The chairperson took a chance on me. I convinced him to give me a job. I said, I'm an anthropologist working in health. I went to see Mushtaque Chowdhury. He was convinced. He packed me off to the village for 6 months. I think he was testing whether I would last. I lasted, and I learned a lot. I started learning about communities, about health, about poverty, about everyday life. In fact, I learned a lot more in those 6 months than I ever did in my undergraduate program. So, thank you for these opportunities, and thank you for your generous endowment. And then when the school was set up in 2004, I found out that Mushtaque Bhai had joined as the dean. So I followed him here, and I said, would you give me a job? I again convinced him, and chairperson, of course, allowed me back in, and I joined the School of Public Health. I want to thank Bhabi, I want to thank the children, Imita and Wamek, but also the extended family, and especially Mushtaque Bhai, for this very generous scholarship. The Amena Azfar and Hurmatunnessa Rob scholarships will be dedicated solely for disadvantaged women. Often there are many young women who can be great public health leaders, but they do not have the means or the capacity to realize those dreams. So this scholarship is a huge step forward for us, but also in complete alignment with the goals and vision of BRAC JPG School. I want to also say that the school is thriving and the mandate is moving forward today, not just because of me, but because I am blessed to have a great team of colleagues. I have a dedicated group of people who work closely with me. Malabika Shorkar, Masood Bhai, Selina Appa, Mikhail Islam, Moloy, Zahid Bhai, Atunu, Saiful, Kaushik, 120 colleagues who are very committed the original vision of our chairperson for BRAC JPG School. Thank you, chairperson, because this endowment under Mushtaq Bhai's name is it's something that I know that Mushtaq Bhai is very hesitant to have his name on anything. I personally am very glad that we convinced him, and it is something that will stay on in the school long after we're gone. So this is a very important endowment, and I know it will be focusing on health and poverty, something that Sir Fazli Hassan Abid has dedicated his life to, but also Mushtaq Bhai in terms of his work. Thank you very much, Chairperson, Vice Chair, and all the distinguished guests for joining us today.
তা আমরা এখন অনুষ্ঠানের শেষ পর্যায়ে চলে এসেছি। এবার ব্র্যাক ও ব্র্যাক বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের প্রতিষ্ঠাতা স্যার ফাজলে হাসান আবেদকে তার প্রধান অতিথির বক্তব্য রাখার জন্য সুনির্বন্ধ অনুরোধ জানাচ্ছি। Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Fazle Hassan Abed.
Thank you, Imita. I don't know whether you know that this institution is called James P. Grant School of Public Health. James P. Grant was the executive director of UNICEF from 1980 to 1994, about 14 years. When he started work in UNICEF, he had one goal. The goal was to, it's called Child Survival Revolution. He decided that too many children are dying, and all over the world he started a program of child survival. And he promoted oral dehydration therapy for children's diarrhea, to try and combat diarrhea dehydration. He started immunization of children, and he started many other programs with UNICEF throughout the world, and he influenced us also in Bangladesh. And you know that this organization, ICDDRB, this used to be called the Cholera Research Lab in Pakistan times. It was created as a Seattle Cholera Research Laboratory funded by the United States of America. And in this place, in 1968, a discovery was made. The discovery was called oral rehydration. You can rehydrate the body of a child or a person who needs rehydration. When there is a cholera or diarrhea, you shed a lot of water, and water has to be replaced. And usually the replacement is done through needle, through the vein, you put in fluid. But in this organization, this discovery was made in 1968, where measurement was made of how orally the saline could be taken, and how through the stomach wall the saline water could enter into the bloodstream if enough glucose was present. So the glucose measurement, saline measurement and water measurement was done here, and there was an article written in 1968 by two scientists. One was Richard Cash and the other was David Nayland. These two were friends of mine also, so I knew them well, and they discovered that in 1968. But nothing was done about it. Nobody knew. The mothers in the countryside didn't know anything about oral dehydration. So children went on dying from diarrhea. So in 1979, it was the International Year of the Child. I decided that I need to do something about the children's mortality. Quarter of our children died before their 5th birthday, before they're 5 years old. So I remember I used to be a member of the Supreme Council on Women and Children. It was chaired by the President of Bangladesh. It was Ziaur Rahman then in 1979. And I told the President that we need to do something about children's mortality. So I said that why don't we take up immunization program, immunize all children in Bangladesh so that we could cut down infant and child mortality. He said, what would be required for immunization? I said, what would be required is cold chain maintenance. We need the vaccines. Vaccines will be provided by UNICEF, but we need to provide fridge in every thana so that we can keep the cold chain maintained. He said, in that case, you better wait another 5 years. I'm going to electrify all the thanas in Bangladesh by another 5 years. But do something else. So something else was something that I decided to do. I decided to go to every household in Bangladesh and teach one woman in every household how to make oral rehydration fluid at home with salt, sugar and water. And that was done, took me 10 years and few tens of millions of dollars to go to every household and teach mothers how to make oral rehydration fluid at home. And that had a tremendous impact on childhood and infant mortality. And now you know that Bangladesh has got the highest rate of oral rehydration use in the world. And diarrheal mortality is almost non-existent now. But anyway, so what happened in 1985, of course, President Ershad was in power then, and Ziaur Rahman was gone. So JSP Grant and I went to see President Ershad in 1985 and tried to convince him that we need to immunize all our children. And he said, and the JSP Grant said to him that in 1990 we are going to have a children's convention in United Nations, and you will be invited to that conference, International Children's Conference, if you attain 70% immunization rate in your country. So the president was very interested because he has never been invited by the United Nations, or he wanted to meet the President of the United States. So President Ershad was very keen to do this. So he immediately phoned up the Secretary of Health to try and immunize all children in Bangladesh in the next 4 years. And Secretary of Health was Munzurul Karim, a classmate of mine. So he immediately phoned me up and said, could we do it together? I said, yes, I will take half the country and you do the other half, and we will immunize all children in Bangladesh in the next 4 years. So that's what we did. From 1985 to 1990, BRAC and the government worked together to immunize children in Bangladesh, maintain cold chain throughout the country and up to the village level. And we achieved 72% immunization rate by 1990. Then President Ershad was invited to the conference in the United Nations. I was there also. So I saw him very happy that he could meet the President of the United States too at that time. But anyway, so this story is important in the sense that immunization and oral rehydration had a big impact on child mortality and also fertility decline in Bangladesh, in the sense that women, when they knew their children are going to survive, they don't have so too many children, they don't need to have so many children. So it had an impact on different things. It had an impact on Mushtaque's life too. He did his PhD on oral rehydration therapy that we did in Bangladesh. So he got his PhD from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. He worked on the project in implementing of the program, which had many things to learn from people who want to learn how programs are implemented nationally. So how the systems are created, how corrections are made from time to time to make program effective, efficient, and then how to scale things up nationally. So we learned many things from that. And so Mushtaq has been with us for almost all his career, and has contributed significantly to new learning in BRAC, and also in various other positions. He has in the last few years he has contributed to being on the board of BRAC. He has worked as executive director of BRAC when the executive director was not. We were looking for a new executive director, and the one executive director has just died. So he also served as acting executive director of BRAC. So I think it has been a wonderful journey for Mushtaq with BRAC and BRAC with Mushtaq. So both of us benefited from each other's work together. I'm also going to talk something about this Malavika Sarkar. I found her in 1994 in Dinajpur as a medical officer. So I thought I should send her to Harvard. So she went to Harvard and did her MPH, and then she got her PhD, and then she worked in Germany and Heidelberg, University of Heidelberg as a researcher, and then I've got her back into GSP Grant School of Public Health. This school is quite famous. In fact, it has become one of the best schools of public health in the global south. And WHO has recognized this as one of the schools in which, so you can go to Harvard or Johns Hopkins, but you can also come here. So it's just as good as that. And we try to give a very high quality education. And only yesterday I was in Bangkok attending a conference, and there were 3 of our former students, one from Philippines, one from Nepal, and one from India. All knew me, and they came to see me and said, I was educated by your school. So wherever I go, I find our students coming in and talking to me about how great their experience was in this School of Public Health. So I have talked about this school, and I'm now going to talk about the scholarships in the name of Mushtaq's family members. Mushtaq and his family has shown great generosity of spirit. Mushtaq is not rich in the sense that he would not, if he died, he did not die disgraced, as Carnegie said. Man who dies rich dies disgraced. So he wouldn't have died disgraced. He's not rich. But whatever little bit he had, quite a lot of it is being given for this scholarship.